and it's just so peaceful. I can't hear anything but crickets and some songbirds. We're getting ready to paddle back and some fog's rolling in, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But it's just so beautiful out here. I wanted to take a minute to share this with you guys. I've been given so much thought lately to, it's kind of an epiphany I've been having about how we look at perfection. And especially as artists, a lot of you guys are artists. I mean, we're all artists of life, right? So true. Perfection is tripping up the way we look at life in so many ways, isn't it? We look at perfection as this thing that has to be achieved. And so much of today's modern, like, online world caters to this idea of putting out this image of yourself that's perfect. And over the years, like when I think back to when I first started on YouTube and when I first started putting up things on in terms of videos or for my author things, it was like always this need in the back of my mind for it to look a certain way or to be perfect. And as the years have gone on, and not even so much the time, but just the energy shift that's taken place gradually, it's like that idea of perfection should and must fall away, because it's not about perfection. And I think we're actually in some ways doing more harm than good when we feel like we always need to be perfect. What we need is to be authentic in ourselves and just own that, own the messiness, own every aspect of our lives, and just embrace it for exactly what it is. I don't want my videos to look perfect, and I don't want my writing to be perfect, and I don't want what I put out online or in real life to be this facade of perfection, because I'm not a perfect person. And I don't think that's the goal here. I don't think that's why we're here on this planet, is to be perfect. I think we're here to be explorers of ourselves and of this beautiful earth and of each other. I mean, it's not about being perfect. It's not about putting out this airbrushed image of yourself or an image of yourself that matches a certain aesthetic. It's not about that. And I think that's a journey we all have to embark on ourselves. And, you can hear someone tell you that over and over again, to be yourself and to not worry about what other people think. But it really has to be your own unique revelation in order for it to make an impact in your life. So it's not something you need to feel pressured into doing. It's something that I think as we practice mindfulness, it will automatically unfold within us and allow us to express ourselves more authentically as artists. But lately, as I've been filming for my last vlog that I did, and then this, whatever this will turn out to be, I've been just really craving to document life as it happens, and my thoughts, and sharing with you guys, asking you questions, hearing what you have to say down in the comments. This is about community. This is about going back to the roots. And I think we need that more than ever now, wouldn't you say? I think the world is starving for real connection and seeing real people just being themselves, not without any pretense or this need to put up a certain image. That's just a thought. I've found that it's really been helping me, not only in life in general, but also as an artist. It's helped me to embrace what I create in such an authentic way, not caring about how it turns out, if it turns out to be, perfect, this level of perfection that I've created in my mind. It's time to let those benchmarks and ideals go, so that we can actually start to live. Ah. Mm. Yes. It's been a beautiful autumn here in Vermont. It's starting to get into that time of year where the leaves are pretty much down off the trees. We just got our first snow on November 1st, I want to say. At least that was the first snow for where I am in Vermont. So that was really cool to see the first snowflakes falling. It's definitely starting to get into some chillier temperatures. And it's just that in-between season where it's cloudy a lot of the time, it's chilly a lot of the time, but at the same time, it's been a beautiful autumn. It was so beautiful to get out and just take some drives and look at the leaves and the mountains and just soak in how beautiful it is this time of year. One of you guys said, yes, just moved to Vermont a year ago and haven't regretted a single minute. Would love a native's perspective, especially one who loves this state. A lot of natives really take the beauty and wonderful community for granted. The community here is amazing. I would say that that's one of the top #1 most beautiful things about Vermont is the sense of community here is really amazing. Vermont is a really rural state for those of you who might not have ever been here before. It's mostly tons and tons of small towns. I am a small town girl. I grew up in rural Vermont my entire life. I've always lived here. And that's one of the things that really fostered so much of my sense of community and my creativity. A lot of who I am, like the basis of my being came from being raised here. And it's just so cool to grow up in a small town where everyone knows you and you know like everybody, and we all take care of each other. And we live in a community where there's lots of farmers. We have this amazing relationship with our neighbors, and we go down the street to buy a lot of our food. And it's just like, really, it always amazes me when I look at other places, which of course there are many other places like this. Many of you will be able to relate to this even if you live somewhere else. But as I traveled more and went to more urban environments, to see that like, wow, not everyone lives like this. This feeling of just having that really close-knit community. And then a number of years ago, some of you might have heard when we were hit with Hurricane Irene, like, I can't remember how many years ago now, but it was a while ago. It was years and years back. But how the communities in Vermont that were all affected by this hurricane really like pulled together and helped each other was really tremendous. It was so cool to see, like, everyone helping everybody, even if you didn't like know the person. It was like everyone just like came together and helped each other. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about living here. That's one of the most beautiful things about Vermont, is the sense of community is something that Vermonters are really proud of. How's the cost of living? How are the winters? My daughter's most interested in snow. What are 3 of your favorite things about it? What are 3 of your least favorite things about it? This is a loaded question. Okay, let's dig into these. How's the cost of living? So the cost of living here is actually pretty high. Vermont is the 10th highest state in cost of living. It's 17% higher than the national average, is what I heard. And it's also the 8th highest for housing. It's pretty expensive, honestly. So it's just something to be aware of, that Vermont definitely is pretty up there, and we also have pretty high taxes. How are the winters? The winters are very long. So if you're someone who loves cold weather, you love winter, you're going to love Vermont. I can tell you that right now, because our winters are pretty much half the year, maybe I should say cold season, because not all of it is going to feel like winter. Like right now, we're already in our cold season. And sometimes our cold season begins much earlier. There are times when the trees are changing color, and we've had snowstorms. So it can really get cold very quickly, very early. And about at least 5 to 6 months of the year is going to be cold, or at least pretty darn cold. And we don't really get super warm summers a lot of times, at least where I am in Vermont. Sometimes we'll have hot summers, but we won't get many hot days. There will be like a handful of hot days, or maybe a couple weeks that are pretty hot, but most of the time it's just, you know, kind of warm. And other summers are pretty cool. Like this summer we had quite a few weeks of cool weather. Cool, rainy weather was made up like half of our summer. You might have heard there was some flooding in Vermont, even because we had that much rain. We just had loads and loads of rain. And it was funny because the first half of the summer was a little bit of a drought and kind of warm. And then the second half was rainy and cool. There's also been, I remember a 4th of July several years back, wearing like pants and a long sleeve shirt, because it was maybe in the 60s. So it really doesn't get too hot here, and our winters last a long time. We also get a lot of snow. I know you mentioned here that your daughter likes snow. We get lots of snow, and we'll get snow every day sometimes in the winter. A little like snowstorm, like just it'll snow for a little bit. We'll get snowfall. And a couple years ago, I made a video that's kind of like documenting a Christmas in Vermont, and we had like 3 feet of powder just from one storm. So we get a lot of snow here. If you like snow, you will like Vermont. What are 3 of my favorite things about Vermont, and what are 3 of my least favorite things? There's so much nature in Vermont, because most of Vermont is not that built up. We really don't have a lot of industrial areas. So we have like Burlington and Montpelier and stuff like that. But most of Vermont is rural, nature, wilderness type of areas with rural little small towns tucked in pockets. So I love that about it. I love everything that comes with rural living here. To kind of just live in a way that's more connected to nature. Being homeschooled here was really an amazing way to grow up. You're not so plugged into the all the different systems of society, you're more off grid, you're more on your own. You have to rely on yourself and also your neighbors and friends. The communities are just closer knit. And probably my third favorite thing is living in Vermont is having so many farms around us, being able to go buy local, fresh, organic produce that's grown down the street from where I live is pretty amazing. Being able to also grow a lot of my own food is pretty cool too. I mean, Vermont's growing seasons are pretty short, but we have a lot of farmers here. The farming community is the real deal, and it's so beautiful, and it's something that I really, really cherish about Vermont. 3 things that I don't like about Vermont. One would be lack of sunlight. We have an enormous amount of cloudy days, and one of you guys asked about that too, which was something about how much sunlight, what's the average days of sunshine. So I looked it up. I have my laptop over here. On the Farmer's Almanac, this was updated this year in September. The second cloudiest state in the United States is Vermont. And actually, according to this, it's saying that Seattle actually sees a little more sunshine than Vermont does. So if think about all the stereotypes about how cloudy Washington State is, and then think about a place that's like cloudier than Seattle. Vermont, it says that we see 58 days of full sunshine each year, which sounds very accurate to me. We really don't get a lot of sunlight here, even in the summer. Like I said, this summer we saw like half the summer we had some sunny days. The second half was like mostly cloudy and rainy. So there is not a lot of sunlight, and after a while you start to feel kind of that vitamin D deficiency setting in. It's tiring after a while, especially in the winter. You start to get like down in the doldrums and you're like, oh my gosh, I just feel the lack of energy. The second thing, I don't know if I'll be able to think of 3 things, but the second thing is the amount of ticks we have here and Lyme disease. Vermont has an enormous amount of Lyme carrying ticks, which I'm sure you have probably seen dog ticks and stuff on maybe your pet or something like that if you live in different areas of the country. But here in Vermont, we have a huge deer tick population, and those ticks very commonly carry Lyme disease. So I know so many people, like so many family members and friends who have had Lyme. It's something to be really aware of if you come to visit Vermont, or if you ever move to Vermont, is to be really cautious when you go out into the woods or even walking around in grass, to make sure you're wearing socks and shoes and that you've sprayed your shoes or your clothing with a tick repellent, because it is a really big problem here. Like I said, I mean, most of my friends and family, at least many of them, have had Lyme, and pets and stuff like that. Pets can get it too, so it's just something to be really aware of. I'm actually gonna recommend a great book about preventing Lyme and just being aware of ticks. If you do come to Vermont, you should check it out. It's by an amazing Vermont doctor that many of my friends and family members have gone to this specific doctor to be treated for Lyme. She's an excellent doctor, and she has a really great book about how to just raise awareness for this issue and also prevent ticks from getting on you that might be carrying Lyme. So it's really important if you do visit here, especially in the spring or fall when ticks are most abundant. Okay, here's another great one tagging on to what we're talking about. I'm gonna go with winters, is how cold does it get? It gets cold here. It gets quite cold. We have many days in winter where it's 20 below when we get up in the morning. We look at the thermometer outside and it's 20 below. So it's chilly. It's definitely chilly. Best places to enjoy a hike in autumn. Pretty much anywhere you go in the Green Mountain National Forest is like, you're gonna see some spectacular views of all the foliage, and it's just pure magic, especially like mid-October. A lot of times it's different every year, but this year, mid-October, it was like pure magic. I've never been to Vermont. If I were to visit, where should I go? Lake Champlain Woodstock. Quechee Gorge is another beautiful place. Middlebury, Vermont is really gorgeous as well. There's lots of cute little towns with really just some really great history. If you just take some of these drives in between the towns I just mentioned that are like, it's awesome. Do I ever forage for foods in the wild? I don't really go foraging like in the woods, even though I would like to learn more about how to do that in the future. That's on the list. I'm moving to Vermont this month. Congratulations, that's awesome. This will be my first true winter. What are your favorite things to do in Vermont in the winter? And also, what are the best ways to mindfully find new friends in Vermont? So in the winter, I love hiking. I'm a real winter hiker. I love that. It's also a great way to, if you're concerned about Lyme here, because we get a lot of ticks in the fall and a lot of ticks in the spring. So like if it's dry in the summer, that's the time I usually take to go hiking. And then in the winter, I love to go hiking. Plus it's really cool when the snow has fallen and the woods are just so quiet. All you can hear is like the birds chirping and like the squirrels scurrying around, and everything is just blanketed in snow. It's so beautiful. And that's just, for me, one of my favorite times to hike. A lot of people also, I'm sure you've heard, come to Vermont to ski. I've actually never skied. I have figure skated. That's another thing a lot of people like to do in Vermont. So Vermont is actually really big with winter sports. There's like a huge amount of tourism that happens in this state in the winter time. Come winter, we have like loads of people coming from all over to go skiing on the slopes or cross-country skiing or snowshoeing, stuff like that. Snowshoeing is also really fun. So those are some fun winter activities you can get into. And depending on like how rurally you live, a lot of your day-to-day just survival stuff is going to revolve around being outside in the winter, like chopping firewood and doing all sorts of maintenance stuff just to keep your house warm. So that's kind of like just these winter activities that are going to happen out of the need to just survive on a day-to-day basis. Oh, and mindfully making new friends in Vermont. I would say just like there's so many cool local events, like whether they're art events or farmers markets, and like just check out some of the cool local stuff. Okay, another question. When you're living in a tiny house, are you still in Vermont or do you spend time during the year nomading elsewhere? What's your favorite time of year to live in Vermont? Yeah, so my husband and I live part-time, half the year usually out of an Airstream, and we do some traveling, which we really enjoy. My favorite time of year to live in Vermont would be summer. A lot of people think of fall and winter because that's what Vermont is best known for, but Vermont is so beautiful in summer. I love to just get on my paddleboard or in the kayak and go out on the lake, and it's just so gorgeous. And lastly, over on Facebook, someone asked, what is my favorite Vermont coffee shop? And that's a hard one because that's one of the things I love about Vermont too. This would probably be on the list. So we have a lot of coffee roasters here. There's a really great roastery in Middlebury, Vermont. That's called, I believe, the Vermont Coffee Company. We have Tall Cat Coffee Roasters. We have, I think it's called Mountain Back Coffee. There's also a really great little coffee shop in Woodstock, Vermont too. That's called Montvert. That place is really cool. Little Seed in Middlebury, Vermont is one of my all-time favorite coffee shops. Really cool vibe. So there's lots of fun places to get coffee in Vermont. I feel like Vermonters, we like gravitate to cozying up with a warm beverage because it's so cold most of the time. But yeah, so I wanted to do this Q&A because I just thought it would be fun to chat about Vermont a little bit. So many of you guys have watched my vlogs and expressed interest in like coming to visit Vermont or moving to Vermont. And I would say like, man, it's a cool place to have grown up. I am so happy to be a Vermonter because growing up here really made me in so many ways who I am because of how rurally we live. I know so many people who have moved here who have wanted to like get away from everything, get away from everyone and everything and just like connect back to some basics. And I feel like Vermont holds that allure because it does offer this sort of escape from the noise of the world. So it's a pretty cool little pocket of the world, I will say. Vermont will always hold
a very special, sacred place in my heart. But comment below and tell me what this autumn has been like for you. I hope you enjoyed this little vlog, a look at not only Vermont in the fall, but like some of the places we traveled to, did some kayaking, did some hiking. We kind of just had a fun, laid-back autumn, traveling around, exploring new things, and spending some time here in the mountains. So comment below and tell me, how was your fall? What did you do? Did you see the leaves change, or are you somewhere where the seasons don't change that drastically? Maybe you're working on some fun projects, or maybe you spent some of this autumn getting ready for National Novel Writing Month. If you're a writer, many of you here are writers as well. So comment and tell me about how your autumn has been. I would love to hear about it. If you didn't catch my new meditation series, I have a free meditation course here on my YouTube channel, and I'll link the first video to that, the first meditation, below in case you want to check it out. I have 2 new courses as well for writers. One is for meditation, purely meditation. The other one is all about just general wellness, taking a little bit of everything that I do in my practice to really just tap into my soul, to go inward and really create from that place of groundedness. So that's some stuff you guys can check out if you're interested. My husband and I also have a bunch of new stuff on the Etsy shop, which is on a little break at the uploading of this video, but we're gonna be back super soon, and we have a bunch of really cool like autumnal things we made, including like incense and altars and some really cool new candles and all kinds of stuff. So if you want to check those out, feel free to. Those links are all below. I hope you were having an amazing fall. Thank you for being here. I wish you so much joy in your journey, my friend. I'll see you soon. Namaste.